Hello and welcome back to Green Money Momentum, where we talk about market movements, making money, and money momentum. I'm your host, Trevor, and we are here for Thursday's daily talk of stock. And I hope that everybody had a great day out there. I had a pretty good day myself, but it is extremely hot here in Arizona. It was like 109 degrees right now. So the state of Arizona is very hot, unlike the state of the stock market right now, which has been in a bit of a cool down period this entire week. So we know since Monday, there has been a lot of blood in the markets, a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And that is because of the big event that we have for tomorrow. And that is going to be where Jerome Powell speaks at Jackson Hole. So the markets today were actually kind of a mixed bag, about 50-50. We had 49% in the gaining category and 47% in the losing category. But overall, there was still a lot of blood in the markets, and the major indexes were still red today. And that is, again, just because at Jackson Hole, Jerome Powell is going to be speaking, and we could get some signals on what will happen at the Fed meeting in September. So right now, there is a 73% projection that the Fed will cut next month, and a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt around this because there was a 99% projection at one point, and we do know the chairman of the Federal Reserve has been very stagnant with his decisions for interest rates this year, something that the markets have been desperately wanting, as well as the president. So tomorrow there is a variety of scenarios that we could see. The best scenario being that Jerome Powell is dovish on interest rates. He comes out, says some positive remarks, and we see the markets rip up. But there is also the other side of the coin where we see Jerome Powell be negative / hawkish, and we see the markets sell down. So what I always recommend to investors is never be over leveraged. Always have a little bit of cash on the sidelines, but always be prepared to take great advantage of great opportunities also, because this week has been very bloody. And so there are a lot of dips within the market. And we do know that dips are always buying opportunities. But just like the bears warn of, there is always the chance that we do dip more, and it is really lingering on what Jerome Powell says tomorrow. So myself, I am prepared for both scenarios. I have bought some of the dip this week, but I haven't over leveraged myself, and I have cash on the sideline just in case the markets dip more. So with that, we're going to talk about 3 different stocks that may be a good opportunity to buy in right now, and that is Palantir, BigBearAI, and then last we're going to finish with DJT. So we're going to start out here with Palantir, and as we can see, Palantir has had a pretty nice dip. We were getting close to $200 in Palantir, and then the last week has been pretty bloody, returning it right back to the 50-day moving average. But what is really important about this dip, when we look at the other indicators on technical analysis, we could see that we have came down significantly on the relative strength index and also on the MACD. So a potential wealth opportunity for anybody wanting to pick up their Palantir while it is on this nice dip, because we really haven't seen a dip this generous since April in Palantir, and this has been a nice 20% drop from the top, and this is right after we had our euphoric push recently. So Palantir did have this massive gap up, and that is because, again, they beat Wall Street's expectations and came out with another great quarterly, which has really been the story of Palantir through this entire year. So with Palantir, their quarterlies are constantly accelerating. They're coming out with more revenue. Their earnings per share is coming out better each and every time, and they are constantly beating expectations. And I expect that to continue in Palantir because this company works closely with the government. Some even say that they are a government entity just under the name of a public company started by DARPA, and that Palantir is basically the CIA. So whether you like Palantir or whether you hate Palantir, we can't deny the facts that they are closely ingrained with the government, and there is a big push for Palantir. So they should just continue to gain more money from the government. I mean, we did have the big, beautiful bill recently, which introduced a lot of spending into defense. And when Trump talks about the big, the Golden Dome, Palantir could be the company that does a lot of work for the Golden Dome, because the Golden Dome is supposed to be a lot around surveillance. And Palantir, again, this is why many hate Palantir, but they are all about surveillance and database technology. And so again, many Americans not happy with Palantir, saying that they are spying on the public, but just as a company, just off the financials and just what we see, we can't deny that they are growing. So Palantir, a proven business that should continue to grow. And again, this is the best dip that we have seen through the entire year, and it is still on this strong uptrend. So slightly under the 50-day moving average. So going into tomorrow, have a look at Palantir and have this be one of the plays that you look at possibly buying a little before the event and then maybe a little after the event, depending on whether things are dovish or hawkish. Again, tomorrow is really the big day out of the week where we will really get what the direction of the market should be over the next month. So with Palantir, just like I said in the beginning of the video, have some cash on the sideline, maybe deploy by buying some Palantir before this event. And then if things get worse and we do see more of a dip, we could see Palantir return to the 200-day moving average. And that would be a really amazing wealth opportunity. I don't think it's going to drop that low. If Jerome Powell does come out, though, things could drop a bit. And if that does happen, I will pick up even more Palantir. And there's also another opportunity with Palantir. I talked about this, I think, a couple videos ago, and that is the double leveraged sector of the market. So there are a lot of derivatives right now, a lot of ETFs that offer 2x leverage on a lot of different stocks. That's where the stock goes up an underlying 1% and the double leverage goes up 2%. So PLTU sounds like Palantir University may be a good opportunity if you are looking to see some massive ROI, because again, the underlying company is a proven company and the technicals on that proven company are showing that we are at the lowest spot that we have been for the entire year. So if you get into PLTU before the big event and things are positive, you could see a massive jump up, because if Palantir jumps by 5%, you go up by 10%. If Palantir jumps by 10%, you go up by 20%. But just remember, with double leverage, there is risk involved. And so two sides of the coin, you could either see it jump or you could see it drop. So if you are a bull in Palantir for the long term, if you invest into PLTU, you will see double the gains that you will see in the underlying. But just do that with some caution if that is the road that you are looking to take. And now to our next company that also works very closely with the government, BigBearAI. And as we know, the government's headquarters is located in Washington, D.C. And well, so now is BigBearAI, at least all around the football team in Washington, D.C., the Washington Commanders, because recently Big Bear and the Commanders have forged a partnership agreement. So this is massive for Big Bear. And just as you could see with this picture here, we have Big Bear's name next to the Performance Center. And that is because with this partnership, they are going to be putting Big Bear everywhere. So just as this reads right here, Big Bear will be at the suites, at the stadiums, at the entrance, on the practice jerseys, and other assets. So that is massive. Big Bear branding on the Washington Commanders. And that is not the only big news that we have seen, but also their partnership with Narval for cargo security in Panama. So there is a lot happening in the Big Bear right now. A lot of positives, also some negatives, though. We do know with their earnings report recently, things were pretty negative and it did drop the stock. And then we also did get news around dilution recently. So with all the other macros, not a good time for Big Bear, but Big Bear is still holding decently strong. So when we look at the trend that we were recently on, we were in this sideways consolidation for some time between 850 and 6, and Big Bear recently slightly under 6, but has been treating that previous support as resistance. But overall, Big Bear is on a downtrend right now. We can see that we are dropping lower on the relative strength index and on the MACD. But again, this could present a potential buying opportunity with Big Bear, a lot of true intrinsic value. Again, they do work with the government, so they have gotten some big government contracts, and they are also at all these different airports, and they have just done some big partnerships also. So with the Washington Commanders, this will be massive just for the eyes on BigBearAI. Of course, this is an advertising cost right here, and it will cost Big Bear something to be all branded with the team and everything like that, but this could bring a lot more investors into the Big Bear. With BigBearAI, though, we can't ignore the negatives also in this company. With their last earnings report, they did come out with a worse revenue than Q1, so a decelerating revenue, which Wall Street never likes to see. And then also they withdrew their adjusted EBITDA numbers, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization for the rest of the year, which is also a negative. But with Big Bear, things could be a little bit bloody in the short term, but this is also a very volatile stock, so we could also see a massive jump up here in the near future. But just like I was talking about strategy, just never over leverage yourself, because while I see Big BigBear dipping right here tomorrow. If things are negative from the Federal Reserve and they are hawkish and we do see more of a drop, this will be the time when I purchase more BigBearAI, because as I've talked about many times, I really play BigBear with a lot of options contracts. I do also have shares in BigBear, but the way I have played this with the bullish calls on BigBear when things are low, that is when I pick up my contracts because they are very cheap. And BigBear, again, a very volatile stock known to run up very high when it does. So I bought BigBear options contracts around here, sold some of my position here, but still holding for the long term because these are leaps. So they are options contracts for next year and beyond. And then the next time I bought BigBear was right around here. And then we have seen this massive jump up. I've sold some of those short-term positions, but I still have my leaps on BigBear, and I will add to them if we see more of a dip after tomorrow. But I would be curious to hear what everyone else thinks about BigBear. Things looking a bit uncertain right now. So there is a bull case for BigBear, but also a strong bear case also. For myself, on my bullish and bearish take is on a bullish side. I do believe in everything that BigBear is doing. I think that BigBear has a lot of true intrinsic value behind them. I think it is massive that BigBear is at all these airports, and with the big beautiful bill introducing more spending, BigBear could greatly benefit from this bill and gain even more government contracts. And we've talked about this many times with BigBear. They are just one big contract away from really changing the life of this company. And right now, BigBear has their strongest balance sheet ever. So the most cash that they've ever had in the company and the lowest debt. So if anything big comes out for BigBear, like a big contract, that could really help to rocket up the stock. But then on the bear case, I also understand the bears being angry because with their last earnings report, BigBear really wasn't the most clear about everything. They did talk about their Army contract being revised down, and they didn't really give an explanation for that. And then again, they did withdraw their adjusted EBITDA numbers for the rest of the year, which big investors and Wall Street never like to see, because if there's anything that the markets hate, it is uncertainty, just like we have had this week, because nobody but Jerome Powell is certain about what he is going to say tomorrow. Right now, sitting at an uncertain spot, causing the fear that we have seen. But I would be curious to hear what everyone thinks in the comments section below. So please drop a comment. Let me know if you were bullish or bearish on the big bear. And so now talking about the government, that's going to bring us into our last stock, DJT, Trump Media and Technology Group. And when we just look at the technical analysis, we could see that we are at a very low spot on this stock right now. As I've been saying, I believe that we are in the basement of DJT. We are at the lowest spot we have been since Liberation Day, and before that, since last September, before the president even got into office. And don't get me wrong, I don't just invest into the stock because of the initials, but because of all the true intrinsic value that this company brings. So while it is at this low spot, I personally believe that this is a great buying opportunity to buy in your DJT, because just when we look at technical analysis, this is one of the lowest spots we have been through these last three big dips, going all the way back to last September. And when we see the 50-day moving average, we could see that recently DJT has been rejected by this moving average twice, sitting low on the relative strength index and also on the MACD. So everything is looking pretty low on this company right now, meaning that if you invest at just $17, you have a pretty good opportunity for when sentiment shifts and things get more bullish within this stock. Because with DJT, I believe that the value just isn't being seen yet by all investors, because with this company, they are really more than just the Truth Social platform, but they are also a big fintech company all around cryptocurrency. They have applied for a lot of crypto ETFs, and also they recently made their big $2 billion purchase into Bitcoin, having a massive reserve, being another one of the companies that are doing the exact same thing that Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy is doing, which is instead of just holding cash, having a massive crypto reserve. And with DJT, they are only following what the president is doing. So we know that Donald J. Trump earlier this year had the massive crypto summit at the White House, and they confirmed that Bitcoin will be on the reserve sheet of the White House. So this company doing exactly what the president is doing with the United States government and their reserve holdings. And recently there were also a lot of big hedge funds that bought into DJT Q2 of this year. And so we really are going into the mass adoption into cryptocurrency. And if we do see a rate cut this next month from the Federal Reserve, the assets that could see the greatest jumps will be technology and cryptocurrency. So while DJT is still undervalued, still under the 50-day and 200-day moving average, also sitting low on the other indicators of the relative strength and the MACD, I believe that now is a great buying opportunity. And again, that is never financial advice, but just my opinion. And that is just because when I buy into great companies, I always like when they are low. I always like to buy low and sell high, right? That is exactly what we are all trying to do. So right now at just $17, a very low spot for this company. But I would be curious to hear what everyone else thinks in the comments section below. So please let me know if you are in Palantir, BigBearAI, DJT, and what your opinions are. I always love to hear from you guys. So please leave a like and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Again, tomorrow is the big event, so it's going to be so interesting to see what Jerome Powell comes out with, whether he is dovish or hawkish. Thank you guys as always, and I will see you in tomorrow's daily talk of stock.